Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, pause this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. In the context of this podcast, everybody refers to us and our cat. You are free to feel however you want about Rand, who is a fictional character. Don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
This is Everybody Hates Rand, your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast. I am Sally Goodger.
I'm Emily Jushaw.
I have a headache.
My butt hurts.
And Emily's bum hurts. This is where we're at.
Just updating you.
Just updating you on the ailment.
It's 7 p.m., which is a little unusual for us.
Yeah, we usually record more like 5.
Right after work. But it's cool. It's all cool. So, let's talk about, I was gonna say Nynaeve, but it sort of veers off in the end there to, like, 6 other points of view.
Yeah.
But these are the chapters when Nynaeve learns how to heal, gentling, / stilling, / yeah, no, those are the two. Those are the two. Couldn't remember. We are catching back up with the girls in Salidar. The status quo has remained in effect. Nothing has changed. Nynaeve and Elayne are still stuck doing dishes. Nynaeve is still trying to work through her block. Her latest, Theodrin's latest experiment to do this involved Nynaeve getting drunk. So she's hungover when the chapter starts, which frankly I didn't catch on to until quite a bit, until she explicitly said what had happened. I just thought she was, like, nervous and or very hot.
Yeah, I mean, the heat is horrible.
Yeah.
I feel like this whenever it's hot, period.
Yeah, she's like, I have a headache and I feel nauseous. And I was like, doesn't everyone feel like that when it's hot outside?
Yeah, I sure do.
When you're just trapped in the heat?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nynaeve's hungover. She's in Salidar. I don't know what else there is to say about it, really. She is looking for Swan and Leanne when the chapter starts, but they are speaking to the hall, of the tower. We find out that Nynaeve, or maybe this happened in last chapters, I can't remember, but Nynaeve was like, we can't keep having our discoveries, quote unquote, from Moghedien coming from me because everyone knows I have a block, so it's getting weird. So rather than like taper off, they just cut off Nynaeve's quote unquote discoveries completely. Yeah. And now all the Aes Sedai are like, what the fuck happened? And are like, Nynaeve, we gotta work through your block. We gotta do whatever it takes to fix it so your achievements can continue. And Nynaeve's like, oh my god, there's no peace. And I'm like, I mean, that's true. Salidar sucks, and as long as you're Aes Sedai, this is going to be the situation. But also, just like, you could have been smarter about it. And what irritates me is that there are many ways for the girls to be smarter than they are that are very obvious. And it feels like Robert Jordan is just like, no, I'd rather my women characters be stupid.
Well, yeah. I mean, as we've discussed every time we've been in Salidar in this book, it is just like Nynaeve and Elayne making the most incomprehensible and incompetent decisions because it's like Robert Jordan just doesn't know what to do with these two in particular. And I feel like that's been the case since the end of book 3.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Robert Jordan loves a stupid woman because they're less threatening.
Yeah. Yeah. He likes women also to be small and to feel cornered by men.
Oh, God, yeah.
Which is what Logain does for a hobby, is frighten women.
Seriously,
no,
though.
literally, it's like, that's how he gets his kicks. You've now read Path of Daggers, so you know.
Yeah, I just read that scene where he's like, LOL, I'm just going to bond women against their will or whatever the fuck he's doing.
We'll get there when we get there. The worst.
And everyone's just like, even the other Ashman are like, maybe calm down.
The other Rashomon are like, so it's this guy or Mazrum Tem? So that's the dichotomy we have to go with?
So it's the worst man you know, or...
The second worst man you know. Which explains a lot about how when Brandon Sanderson got there and was like, oh no,
Yeah.
this is the situation, he just invented a whole ass new character to represent Logain's faction, who was like slightly less of an asshole.
Yeah, just imagine Brandon Sanderson down in Utah County making a list of all the Ashman. It's like,
Oh no!
war criminal, rapist, war criminal.
They're all terrible except for the ones with Rand actively.
Yeah, and he's like, Robert took Narishima away from me.
Took Flynn.
Took Flynn.
Took
I'm just
Hawkwill.
gonna have to invent a whole
I just
boy.
have to, like, invent, like, 4 guys. So Nynaeve's feeling very cornered by various Aes Sedai and by the situation in general. This has not changed since the beginning of the book. It's pretty old news. It turns out that the 2 Aes Sedai sisters, Vandene and Adalius, are now in town, which is great. I guess they traveled from the Borderlands, wherever we last saw them. I think that's where Moiraine and Lan were visiting them in the Great Hunt.
Sounds about right.
But they're being introduced because they will be going to Ebudar with Nynaeve and Elayne in a few chapters, or at the end of this book.
Which will be like 97,000 chapters at the rate.
Yeah, we're like barely more than halfway through. Nynaeve, who has just gone into the little tower, they are now calling it, this like former inn that is now HQ for Salidar, Aes Sedai. She like rushes out because she sees Myrelle, and as we talked about the last time we had a Nynaeve chapter, Nynaeve feels particularly targeted by Myrelle, which might be because Lan is headed toward Myrelle, or even already there. I can never remember what the timeline is on that. But no, I think he gets there at the end of this book.
Yeah, and he's like foul.
He's like, eh.
And Myrelle's like, sexual assault.
Great. This is how we heal.
It's not!
It's terrible. Oh my god.
God, this book is a toilet book. Throw in the toilet.
I don't know, can we say at least Robert Jordan does equal opportunity sexual assault? I don't know if he was like, it's feminist if men get raped too.
I don't know.
I hate that man. So Nynaeve leaves the little tower and runs right into Thom and Julian, who are now back from their little scouting mish in Amadicia.
Also, Thom greets by Nynaeve by grabbing her shoulders from the, like, behind. Like, he's standing behind her and grabs her shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're a creepy old man.
They're a little too much. A little too much. Like, Nynaeve doesn't even get to ask them about anything before Elayne just, like, hurtles out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And she and Thom are doing this little faux grandpa and grandchild, like, dance number. You know, lots of mustache tugging and twirling and la-di-da-di-da. And I just picture Nynaeve and Julian making awkward eye contact, like, God, why does this happen to us?
Yeah.
Why are we stuck here with them?
With these horrible, horrible people.
With this, like, epitome. They are like Freud's wet dream.
I know.
Like, come on. The evolution from sexual tension to father-daughter relationship, it's horrific. Anyway, Tom's like, we have to go report to the sitters, so we just have a minute, but basically we were in Amadicia. There aren't actually any white cloaks, like, guarding the river on the other side. They all seem to be congregating in Amadicia. Maybe they weren't in Amadicia. Ealdon?
The country next to them.
I hate having to consult the map.
It's the map, it's the map, it's the map, it's the map.
Oh, Amadicia is the... No, wait.
Maybe they were in the Shadow Coast.
God, I wish they were in the Shadow Coast. No, I think they were in Amadicia.
Okay.
I just am confused by this paragraph then. I think it's meant to be like they are gathering in the capital city, which is Aran'gar. They're Pedro Niles basically mustering his forces and not paying too much attention to the Salidar Aes Sedai. He does have a strong border presence on the Terabon border because, of course, Terabon is basically actively in flames with a Shanshan invasion that no one knows about yet.
Or cares about.
Yeah, I mean, Pedro Nile did get a message about it and was just like, fuck this.
This guy's obviously lost it.
This guy's obviously stupid. And then Elaine's like, oh, did you hear something about Mother? Mother? And Tom's like, yeah, there are lots of rumors. And she's like, just tell me. And he's like, well, everyone in Amadicia thinks that Morgause is in the Fortress of the Light, and that she's going to lead an army of White Cloaks back to Andor. And Elayne, taking the opposite stance of her brother Gawain, is like, foolish. How foolish. I shall not believe a rumor about my mother. So far-fetched.
Yeah. How are they related?
Like, they literally both hear a far-fetched rumor, and Gawain is like, this is going to impact my every decision from now on. I hate the Dragon Reborn. My mother is definitely dead. And Elaine's like, absolutely not.
She's like, no.
There is a medium ground, I guess.
Just sort of like a healthy skepticism.
Yeah, just sort of like, well, if there are a lot of rumors about something, like when Gawain thought, except Gawain only heard the one rumor. But, like, it is true that if you hear something often enough, there is a truth behind it.
Yeah.
Whether that is the truth that you are hoping for or the truth that you want, there is going to be a truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, I don't know. It's, Elaine's like, I've already mourned for her. I'm ready to accept that she's dead. And it's like, clearly not, because you are not actively trying to get back to Andor.
Yeah.
Like, there's some unprocessed grief there if you're not stepping up to replace your mother. I just don't know why that is never, like, spoken about. The fact that if Morgause is dead or missing, Elayne is needed back in Andor. She just doesn't seem to accept that as something that she needs to do.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. It's, again, one of these just, like, incomprehensible and incompetent decisions Robert Jordan's having her make by not making a decision about it, you know?
Yeah.
So the absence of a decision where it's just, like, it's so much more important for Elayne to obsess about how she can help Rand and Salidar than actually being a ruler. It's very odd.
Thom and Julian get called in, so Nynaeve's like, the only place I can go now, because apparently she has nothing to do all day but study Logain or Swan and Leanne, is go find Logain. So Elaine's like, I'll come with you. They start walking together. They have one of their little quasi-fight/apologies where Nynaeve is like, no, you're right, I was super drunk and I was a mess, basically, so you were right to laugh at me.
Yeah.
Especially because Nynaeve was very brusque that time Elayne got not even intentionally drunk, just sort of.
Yeah. She was being pumped full of drink.
Yep.
By a creepy tavern lad.
Like a date rapist.
Yeah.
But they are walking along. They are finally like, yeah, we're good again. They stop at this little, like, cottage or something that Logain is in with some warders standing guard. And Nynaeve's like, Elayne, we should just, like, go. And Elaine's like, no, because we can't do anything for Rand if we're runaways. Like, you promised we need to stay here if we found something. And Nynaeve's like, yeah, we found something, but we can't do anything about it, and they're not going to do anything about it. So why don't we go to Ebudar if you don't want to go to Andor? Like, and Elaine's like, well, basically Burgee and Uno are conspiring to keep us in Salidar now because I told them to. And it's just like, what?
Then tell them not to.
What's happening?
If you gave them an order, you can ungive them the order.
There's also, like, Nynaeve's like, why are you wearing Moghedien's bracelet? And Elaine's like, I didn't want to because I didn't want the inconvenience of feeling her pain from when Burgee beat her up.
Yeah.
So, like, just a lot to unpack there. They go into Loghain's house. He's reading a book.
His
or
little
whatever.
witch cottage in the woods.
I know. He's
Made
fucking stirring a cauldron. Boil, boil, toil and trouble.
ready to eat some kids and hurt some women.
And he's like, "Hi, do you want some wine?" Like,
It's like 9 in the morning, okay?
what's he doing? Everyone seems to drink wine from sunup to sundown.
Horrible.
It's like Robert Jordan liked the idea that in the Middle Ages people were just drinking all the time because the water wasn't
safe,
healthy, but like was like, no beer, just wine.
Just wine.
Because I like the idea of women sipping wine all day long, like Cersei Lannister.
Yeah, he's like, it's much more feminine to drink wine.
Sexual. Maybe he knew more about wine. Maybe he was like a wine snob.
Maybe there's something in the climate of wheelie time country that is better for growing grapes than growing whatever the fuck beers.
Yeah, we never see any fucking vineyards.
Yeah, so we see lots of fields and shit where they could be growing
Where are the vineyards?
barley or whatever the fuck beer is made out of.
Why isn't there a wine shortage after, this horrific drought?
And all the grapes die.
You'd think. I guess that's dumb. There will be a wine shortage 10 to 15 years from now after everything's been fermented.
Fucking drinking it all day long.
I know how alcohol works. Stupid.
I just feel like that's an over... you don't have to put forth every detail of your world building, right? There's no reason to do that. But the amount of times we have ridden through the fucking countryside of this fucking continent, we haven't seen a single fucking vineyard, but I have seen 1 billion sheep farms.
I just think vineyards are neat.
They are neat. It's like the Parent Trap or whatever.
That's what I think of, too, when I think of vineyards. Dennis Quaid on that fucking vineyard.
Yeah.
In California.
With little Lindsay Lohan.
Napa Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. So much of my childhood was influenced by The Parent Trap.
It was a good movie.
This interaction starts out politely enough with Loghain being like, "It's good to see you. Do you want some wine?" And Nynaeve immediately starts patronizing him and being rude to him, which is how every interaction with Loghain goes. Which is not to excuse Loghain's behavior at all, but to show that this is a toxic environment generally. No one's nice to Loghain either.
Yeah.
But she starts doing her channeling thing. At one point she grabs his head and tells him to shut up. And the paragraph in which she actually heals him is just interspersed with italics of her thought process, which does not have anything to do with the healing itself, but just generally her worries and anxieties. And then she heals him. Like, Loghain's eyes kind of widen, and she's like, "Oh shit," and is like, "Elayne, run, go tell Shiriam that I've healed Loghain," and shields him. And I don't feel great about the whole paragraph where Nynaeve kind of accidentally heals Loghain. I appreciate the commitment, if not the actual timetable, of Nynaeve studying and attempting to do research as she's trying to solve this problem that she feels can be solved even though no one else has ever successfully done it. It's very scientific in its way.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole, Nynaeve being caught a ball in her emotions, which is when she finally achieves something. And I think that is, Nynaeve is such a figure of emotions. And that's what, I don't know, I'm not saying that.
No, I'm feeling very much the same way. So I'm glad you got this conversation started, because I find it, rereading this book again, where so much of it is about Nynaeve's block, I find the fact that Nynaeve has this block to be ultimately very patronizing to her character. Where it's an interesting world building thing, but the fact that she can only channel when she's angry just kind of plays into this very weird angry woman trope. It's always yelling at men or whatever. That's part of it. But just I don't know, and it's just like we've just had this thing where she's gotten all of her like fake accomplishments taken away from her because now Elayne gets to do everything. So it's like one of her biggest accomplishments in terms of being a magic user is not actually possible because of Nynaeve's ability. It's just like something she happens to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I think the gender dynamics in this, the old-fashioned gender dynamics are that women are emotional and men are rational, right? And I feel like that is enforced in Nynaeve's character, that she's this epitome of emotion, and while and she's basically at her most powerful when she is emotional, but she also has to do this thing where she finds balance in order to harness her power, where she has to trust rationality rather than emotion to use magic. And it's just like sort of an icky gender dynamic.
Yeah.
Generally, like, we're not being taught by this book series that both emotions and logic are powerful in people, and that everyone needs them and uses them differently, and everyone has different balances of them. We're just being taught women are emotional and don't make sense.
Yeah.
And men are logical and so unemotional in Rand's case that they become, like, literally impossible to live with.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah, and
icky.
Putting this moment up against the many, many moments where Rand channels something that he doesn't understand, or, like, doesn't understand how he does it, he just, does it. And maybe it's just, like, the rule of multiplicity. Like, so far, I've only seen Nynaeve get, like, one big moment where she does something, quote-unquote, accidentally, where Rand is just constantly, like, balefire accident, traveling accident. It's like, what is happening? And I don't know. It's just very frustrating that she, like, Rand gets to do all of that in his, like, emotionalist, rational void.
Well, and, like, he has a good reason for it, which is that he's got this other person in his head who has that knowledge that he might actually be, like, sort of unlocking whenever he accidentally does something. And Nynaeve is just, like, doesn't.
Yeah, and so I just feel... I guess what I'm ultimately getting at is this moment could be a lot more powerful and less patronizing to Nynaeve's intelligence and ability if she was able to do it not... Even if it was an accident, just more not wrapped up in her, like, very petty, quote-unquote, girlish emotions about problems that she's having with other women and the fact that she has to do chores and, like, all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like she was able to be successful because she's worried about domestic woman things.
Yes.
Not important man things.
What a good little woman. So, Elayne leaves at a dead run, which is kind of hilarious. And Nynaeve is left alone with Logain, who, this is, true enough, I think, to the experience of womanhood. As soon as she is alone with a man who she actually feels like she has to worry about in terms of being able to handle him with her magical power, she is aware that he is a really big man, and that he's physically imposing, even if he hasn't yet done anything to impose himself upon her. But when you're a woman, whatever man you're with, that's generally something you're aware of. But then, of course, she behaves totally irrationally when a warder pokes his head in and is like, is everything good? And she's just like, yes, everything's fine.
Yeah.
How dare you patronize me?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. When I think a more normal reaction would to be like, well, he can channel again, so I'm a little stressed. If you could stay here.
Yeah.
And keep an eye on him, that would be great.
Just irrational decisions.
Yep.
Incomprehensible decisions.
As soon as he's gone, Logain starts monologuing about how he's not going to attack all the Aes Sedai. Like, that would be dumb, which is true. He's like, anyway, I've accomplished what I want. The Red Ajah is gonna be no more soon enough. And then he says that he once saw a man who will cause more trouble than I ever did. Maybe it was the Dragon Reborn, I don't know. It was when they took me through Camelin after I was captured. He was far away, but I saw a glow, and I knew he'd shake the world. So just explaining that little scene now from Logain's point of view, and also revealing the fact that Logain can see Ta'Viren, which is bizarre. A little bizarre addition.
Oh, was that what it was? I thought it was just like Rand's powers.
Oh, no. Well, no, I don't know. I think someone else, we find out, can see Ta'Viren. Matt gets to Salidar later in this book, and like Nicola or someone is like, he's glowing. And Matt's like, get away from me.
It's just because I'm so full of money.
Matt's like, it's my beauty. Fuck off.
She's like, it's definitely not.
It's not. You are rancid. But before anything really can happen, and Nynaeve's just berating herself and getting more freaked out, a bunch of Aes Sedai barge in. And are like, you didn't really heal him. And Nynaeve's like, I really super did. Can you please shield him? So a couple of ladies put a shield on him and are just chatting about it, but Shiriam and Muriel take Nynaeve out and start escorting her to the little tower. They have a confusing interaction where they're like, we should have you punished for doing that, though. Or something.
Yeah, it's all very weird and confusing.
Eventually, Nynaeve realizes, because they get back to the little tower and like a bunch of Yellow Aja come in with Swan and Leanne, that they are intentionally trying to make Nynaeve angry enough to channel and do it again. But it's just like...
Again, this wouldn't be an issue if Nynaeve wasn't saddled with such a ridiculous, patronizing block.
Well, and also, like, Nynaeve lives with it. She now knows how to make herself angry enough to channel. It's the way anyone with any sort of different ability set. She's just like, I know how to handle it. It's inconvenient, but I can get myself ready to channel. It just takes time.
Yeah. Also, alternately, we could have just let Nynaeve keep her block and explored some forms of, neurodivergence or disability. But Wheel of Time says, no, fuck disabled people. I hate you, Robert Jordan.
And Nynaeve heals Swan, and then Leanne. Both of them are very excited, of course, which is lovely. But the Yellow Aja just start chattering with each other, and Nynaeve starts to get out of there. Before she leaves, someone's like, well, I guess we have to gentle Logain again. And one of the Aes Sedai is like, well, can we? Not because of the ethical problems that gentling presents, but because they are trying to get in a position to manipulate Rand. And so they shouldn't have any, gentling associated with them if they're going to approach him, a man who can channel.
Yeah.
Great people. But Nynaeve gets outside and sees Elayne briefly before she is swarmed by a bunch of other Aes Sedai of the Yellow Aja who are like, I want to go over it with you, I want to learn, but also I bet I could do it better, blah 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 blah. We then bounce over to Swan, who has an interaction with Gareth Bryn, which is as terrible as it always is. He threatens to beat her. I'll turn you upside down and smack you for being childish. Great. She, in turn, tries to lift him with the power and finds that she can't because her ability has been severely diminished. Which I think itself is silly. The idea that women have to heal men and men have to heal women in order to bring them back to quote-unquote full capacity. It feels like a way to ensure that Swan and Leanne are still infantilized throughout the rest of this series and are never forces to be reckoned with again. But it's just me.
Well, yeah, and it's just more, I didn't realize that's what happens. I didn't realize that men had to heal women and women have to heal men. I don't know.
Oh, that might be something they talk about a little later.
I mean, that's fine. Whatever. I just hadn't realized that. And it's just the gender essentialism is so frustrating.
Yeah.
Why? Why do we have to have this constant, men and women are the balance in the binary? And it's could you shut up for one fucking second? about men and women. Robert, like, you did not need to build it into everything. You shouldn't have built it into any part of your magic system at all, but the fact that it's, like, in every minute detail. Ugh.
Anyway, Swan starts getting emotional, not because her ability has been diminished, but she realizes because the death of her warder, whose name is Ulrich. I think we complained in a recent episode that we didn't even remember what her warder's name was, because she never thought about it. She is suffering because his death is now hitting her, because I guess the warder bond is so intertwined with the ability to channel or something,
that she didn't feel sad about this man dying at all before she got her magic back.
She was just like, la-di-da-di-da, and now it's like, oh my god, I'm gonna be in tears for the next 6 months, according to Leanne, or whatever.
It's like, it was still a person that you knew.
I know, she, like, literally never thought about it.
Yeah.
What the fuck? It's so nuts. But she and Leanne are like, okay, we've got to go confront the tower. And Swan is like, if she was Aes Sedai again, was she not Amyrlin again as well? I'm just like, no! Fucking obviously not.
Yeah.
Why is that a question?
Yeah. The fact that she thinks it at all is a little...
telling.
Yeah.
Swan power hungry as fuck.
Yeah, and it's like, no, the tower is broken. You fucked up real hard.
Yeah, to use an appropriate metaphor, that ship done sailed. Like, lady.
Yeah. Like, just be grateful you weren't murdered. And maybe try
Gratitude from Swan? Who?
Yeah, and just try to, like, not need to be the power hungriest bitch in Salidar.
Which is a tough role to fill. There's so many contenders.
The most power hungry bitch you know, and the second most power hungry bitch you know.
We then get back. Well, not back. We then hop over to Elayne, who's in their room when Nynaeve gets back from being bombarded with questions. Nynaeve's, of course, miserable and like, this sucks. They're gonna have me on a schedule of talking to various people who want to break through my block, which is gonna suck. But they don't have much time to chat before Swan and Leanne show up. And Elaine's like, should we curtsy? Like, are you Aes Sedai again? And they're like, yeah, they've agreed that we're Aes Sedai again, but obviously we don't have our positions back, and we actually have to apply to join Aja's, like we would have if we were brand new Aes Sedai. Leanne, interestingly, is going to switch Aja's, which I think is fun. Good for her.
She was blue?
She was blue, now she's like, I'm gonna go green. I wish the whole green Aja thing wasn't intertwined with how slutty someone is. But there you have it.
What if there were equal opportunities to be slutty across all of the Aja?
Equal opportunity sluts.
What if Varen was just like, these are all my boyfriends and girlfriends? And everyone's like, cool.
But they're like, we're actually here because we want you to try healing us again. Obviously, Logain is at the same power level that he was when he was captured because 6 people are still needed to maintain his shield. But Swan and Leanne are very much diminished. And Nynaeve's like, well, I can't heal something that has already been healed. Like, it's just not going to work. Plus, I can't channel right now. And Elaine's like, why does it matter, or something, and they go on to this very long tangent and very not explicit because I think in the passage sort of like skimmed over it.
Mm-hmm.
But basically they're saying it is not just a matter of how much magic power we have, it is a matter of how much political and social power we have. Because there's this unspoken rule with the Aes Sedai that whoever has the most power is sort of the most important person in the room. Their opinions matter the most, they're in charge. Which is why frequently Amyrlin seats are women with lots of power at their disposal. But of course, women don't necessarily know who is more powerful if 2 people are close, unless they have a duel, so other things like whether someone was a wilder, how long they spent in training, whether they get a block, I assume, come into play.
Yeah.
Which is why in the next book, I guess, Elayne will sort of end up taking charge of the group. She demands that if power is the most important thing, that she be given precedent. And of course, Nynaeve doesn't really demand the same, and I don't know how much,
Yeah. I mean, it's a really gross and toxic system. It's basically like who has the most firepower, who has the most guns.
Yeah,
That's what it feels like
terrible.
to me. It's very police-y.
Yeah. And it's just annoying, flat out annoying that every Aes Sedai interaction is dependent upon this. Like, as if the Aes Sedai weren't fucking complicated enough.
Yeah.
We also have to have this, like, weird power dynamic with every person who's on screen.
Yeah, and it's like, don't we have enough power dynamics in this series without adding into this whole other level of, like, you could be the smartest, most competent person in the world, but if you don't channel as much as Eleda is in charge.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a bad system.
It's stupid.
It's a bad system.
But Elayne, the four of them are like, well, even though you two are Aes Sedai now, let's be friends still, or whatever. Let's have a friendship.
It seems very generous to call them friends at any point in this series.
Liam's the only one making an effort. Like, Swan says something like, well, if we're not friends, then we're at least 4 people on the same boat. And Nynaeve's like, well, then who's the captain? And Swan's like, I am. It's like, you all suck.
It's all...
I'm the captain now.
This isn't how friendships work.
Literally, that's how Elayne falls asleep angelically on her pillow with her golden curls, thinking, I will become the captain.
I know. It's like, girl, you are deranged.
They're all deranged. But Nynaeve and Elayne are like, well, if we're such good friends, why don't you give us the information you've been holding back? And Swan's like, okay, well, apparently Shiriam and the others are really happy because they met with the wise ones last night and managed to not make fools of themselves. Also, Edwin is coming to the next meeting. But anyway, we have to go. And it's like, okay, just leaving. But, they go. And yeah, Elayne goes to sleep thinking, how can I be in charge of this friendship? Which is such a healthy way.
That's what I think about every night I lay in bed, and I think, how can I be in charge of my friends?
How can I dominate them?
How can I dominate my friends?
Ugh. Dominating friends and manipulating people. By Elayne.
Ugh.
Then we skip over to a woman named Delana, who has not really been a character up until this point, but we find out that she used to be friends with Swan. She is, of course, now more powerful than Swan, and she's like, I have to watch out for Swan now, the way she watched out for me. Blah, blah, blah. But Swan leaves, and then Novice comes in and is like, hey, there's a woman here to see you. Delana's like, right, send her in. And, this very sexy lady walks in, making a hand signal to indicate that she is Black Aja. But Delana's like, what the fuck? She can't channel, that I can sense. And she's like, what are you doing? What do you want? Who do you think you are? And this woman's like, my name's Halima.
Like, don't forget, she's very sexy.
My tits are the first thing you see when I walk into every room. Tits first.
Tits first.
Everything I wear is low cut. La da 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 da. But she's like, here's the story, the quote unquote story. I was a traveling companion to a woman, an Aes Sedai named Cabriana, and she fell off a horse, which is a totally normal way for an Aes Sedai to die. So I pushed her, is the subtext of that. And then her warder just died, because that's what warders do when their Aes Sedai die. And I've been sent here to report, basically, about that. Cabriana and her warder were actually captured and tortured horrifically by Semiraj, maybe earlier in this book. I can't remember. I can't keep straight when people are tortured. I just block it right out. And Delana's like, okay, well, I guess you want me to back you up on that, but I don't even know Cabriana, so I can't really help you there. And Helena's like, don't worry about it, I know her. And Delana's like, okay, well, they'll receive you as a guest. And Helena's like, well, I don't want to be a guest, I want to be like your secretary or some shit, so I can be here permanently. And Delana's like, you can't do that. And Helena's like, guess what, my real name is Aran'gar, which I guess Delana has heard about in her dreams, so...
In her dreams.
Now she's scared.
And she's like, oh no!
And thus we embark on Robert Jordan's favorite relationship to make torture porn out of. This is like absolute fodder for Robert Jordan's like favorite kinks. It's two women who can have a domineering sexual relationship with each other, but actually one of the women is a man. So don't worry, it's still straight.
Just in case you were worried, there's no way it could possibly be gay. I, Robert Jordan, am a heterosexual man. Please don't forget that about me. I'm straight. All my characters are straight. Halima is sexy, though.
Halima is just walking pornography.
I didn't realize they ended up in a sexual relationship.
It's referenced a few times later on. It's
consenting, I'm sure.
It's super duper consensual. Everyone's happy in that relationship.
Robert Jordan needed way more therapy than he ever received.
Any therapy. Any at all. A therapist would be like, what the fuck's wrong with you based on this book? Okay, we've been talking so long. Sorry, I'm gonna have to cut out so much.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't very good at summarizing these chapters.
Well, they're confusing and weird.
They're stupid. Next chapter, we will have to go to yet another insufferable dynamic with Morgoth and her coterie in Amador. Then we'll float over to Egg as she is summoned to be the Amerlin seat goody-goody. So at least something will start happening in Salidar. Thank fuck.
Thank God, Egg. Please come save this place.
But that's that. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Glenna Mackenzie for our theme song, to our patrons on Patreon. And that's it. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just real quick about our bookshop affiliate program that we're doing. First of all, thank you to everyone who's bought books, and to everyone who will buy books, thank you. But the whole purpose of that is for us to be able to kind of leverage our platform. You guys are buying books anyway, whatever kind of bump back we get, that 10% we want to donate to mutual aid and direct aid requests, prioritizing queer, Black, and Indigenous people of color. And I was thinking about it this week, and while we're, hoping to use this as, part of our social justice life thing, I don't know what word I'm looking for, it is also kind of an odd dynamic for two white people to be making decisions about which people of color should receive funds. So if you are a person of color who ever has a mutual aid fund or a direct aid request that you know of that you would like to put on our radar for us to give money to, we are more than open to that because you are a part of that community and you know where the money should be going. So.
Yeah, or if you know people, have friends who are in need.
Yeah.
Just hit us up. We would like to allocate to them.
Yeah, and just, sorry if that was really confusing, but my point is, I don't want us to be 100% in the position of power to decide where all that money goes, because that's not a very healthy relationship in terms of giving aid to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry if that didn't make any sense.
No, it made sense.
So just know our DMs and our emails are 100% always open to that.
Yeah. Thanks.
Do
you have a sign-off?
Yes. I had to go to the gynecologist yesterday, which is, enough of a sign-off in itself.
Yeah, and full stop. Goodbye.
I love my gynecologist. She's lovely. She's my favorite doctor, but, ugh. And as I was, sitting in the waiting room, filling out my little, annual, what medications are you on? blah, blah, blah. And me, I had to have, like, a full page in my planner to be like, these are my medications, these are my other health conditions, these are my family health conditions. There was this other woman in the waiting room who was just having the hardest time answering any questions about her insurance.
I know.
And I, as a chronically ill person who spends too much time at the doctor, just wanted to be like, give me your insurance card and your paperwork and I'll fill it out for you.
We'll figure this out.
But obviously I didn't do that because I'm not an asshole. But it was, like, seriously making me insane. And she was with her, like, useless boyfriend or husband person who was like, I don't know which one is the policy number. And I was like, give me your insurance card. Give it to me. It was just a very painful. And I felt very bad for her. And I wanted to help her, but I didn't because that's, you know.
You can help me. I don't know things about insurance. Because I just don't.
Insurance is hard. That's why I wanted to be like, let my suffering be put to your good use.
Well, where's Tybalt?
Gone.
Right, everyone, on that note. Horrifying. Thanks for listening. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.